How you talk to your kids is super important. It's probably one of the most important things you can do as a parent, as a dad, as a mom, and it's something that will transform their life for either the better or the worst. Hey, I'm Chris and welcome to another video. I'm a dad of two young boys with a third on the way. My kids are almost 3 and almost 5, and they're wild. But I think each and every day I'm learning how to be a better parent and how to connect with my kids and to grow them in the way that God wants them to grow and to become better people. And so I'm a Christian. This isn't necessarily a Christian channel or Christian content, but everything that I do and say is going to be framed through that mindset. And with that said, we are going to start with the verse that says, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And there's a great verse in James that also talks about how you can control a horse. It says, a bit in the mouth of a horse controls the whole horse. A small rudder on a huge ship in the hands of a skilled captain sets the course and faces the strongest wind. A word out of your mouth may seem of no account, but it can accomplish nearly anything or destroy it. That's from James. And so I think this is a truth that we all know in our lives. And it's something destructive that we can point to and something building up that we can point to from our own parents. Like, what's a phrase that your parents said to you that has just impacted you for the rest of your life? A lot of people say it's like, oh, my parents called me stupid, or my parents called me dumb, or my parents called me weak, or something like that. And it's those terms, those phrases of death that we listen to as kids that carry with us forever. It's something that the enemy uses to bring us down and so that we cannot continue to grow until we deal with that issue. Why is the tongue so powerful? The tongue is so powerful because it's just the way that life happens. See, God created the heavens and the earth through speaking. Adam named the animals through speaking. And when he named the animals, he didn't just name them tiger, but he gave them their identity by speaking. So when he spoke, he said tiger. It wasn't just tiger, it was everything. Muscular, runs fast, big, carnivore. I don't know what else about tigers there are, but he assigned an identity to him. It's the way that God assigned an identity to humans, that we are made in his image, we are capable, we have agency, and all the other things that make us human. And so our identity is core to who we are, and it's how we function in this world. And so whenever you speak, and whenever you speak either good or speak bad, you're creating life or death. And I'm not saying that like when you speak, like something automatically happens. Like if you say, like if you have a glass of water and you say, this glass of water be filled, like it doesn't just be filled, right? There's I'm not talking about like manifesting your wishes and your dreams, because we are creating God's image and you can do that. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that the way that you speak is a spiritual thing, and it can create and plant seeds in people to grow. And whenever you do encourage and whenever you do speak life, you do grow that thing inside of a human. It's more not of just like this physical, like I want money, so I'm going to say that I want money, or I want to be a millionaire, so I'm going to say. It's not this name it and claim it thing that is, popular in the spheres. It's not this manifesting thing that's also popular in the world. And so with kids, how we speak to them does matter. And so I'm going to go through a few examples, two examples that I can think of, and then I'm going to go through like 5 or 6 of these like controversial ones on people saying do not do these. And I'm also going to do a few, make sure you do not say these to your kids like at all. And so for the first 2, these are phrases that you can reframe. So reframing is basically you want your kid to do something for some reason, and say they're on a playground and they're climbing up the monkey bars or they're climbing up the net. And you want them to be careful because you don't want them to hurt themselves. Now the idea, that's good for like you want them to be careful. Okay, you tell them to be careful. Now they don't necessarily know what that means. What you do is you're instilling fear in them instead of instilling this idea that taking chances safely is a good idea. Taking risk is a good idea if you're doing it with the right mindset. So instead of saying be careful, you can say, watch your feet, watch your hands, keep an eye on where you're going, stuff like that. Something for them to learn and grow in climbing, not to learn and grow into fear. And, when I first heard this concept many years ago, I thought it was like kind of like hogwash. Kind of just like, why does it really matter? And I think it does matter because you want to encourage your kids in the things that they should be growing in, not in the things that they shouldn't be growing in. They shouldn't be growing in like how to be careful. They should be growing in how to pursue risk, how to learn and grow with trying. Because everything in life, if you don't try, you cannot succeed. Meaning what? You can't have a good life if you don't try things. Like, how many people do you know just don't do anything because they're so scared of everything? Like, that is no way to live. It's no way to live in fear. Fear is a bad master. Fear is not life. And so you should avoid fear. Not you should avoid it. You should not encourage fear, but you should teach them how to overcome fear. Teach them how to overcome fear. That's how you do it. Another phrase that I have here is you have to do something, or I have to, and reframe it to I get to. And so I actually noticed myself doing this a few months ago where I'm like, I have to go to work because work is up and down and it's good, it's bad, it's not my favorite thing to do, but I have to do it. And that's true, I do technically have to because I need to provide for my family. But we reframe it to say I get to, even for myself. Like, this is for myself as well. I get to go to work. I get to go to work, I'm healthy, I have a good job, I have something that can provide for our family. I get to do that. Like, that's a blessing. And that's important how we talk to ourselves. It's important how we talk to our kids. And if our kids see me constantly every single day getting up and say, I have to go to work, blah. Like, that's how they're going to think of work. That it's a dread to go, that it's hard to go, that someone's forcing me to go, like that I'm forced to go to work so I can provide for them. Like, they're the burden. That's like stupid. I get to go to work. I should be happy about that. And that's what I'm going to do. So here's some other a little more controversial ones, and like how you speak to your kids, phrases that you say to them that I guess deal more with, I'm looking at my iPad down there, deal more with like discipline and their attitude and behavior and stuff like that. And so I'll just comment on them as we go. So one of them is stop crying. And I've definitely used this multiple times in the past. People say stop crying is bad because you want your kids to be able to feel the way that they feel and to learn and grow in their feelings. I will just say that sometimes I have 2 young boys, so one of them is very emotional and he has taken crying and whining sometimes where he's like hurt, and then he uses it as a way to get something. And so whenever he changes into that mode of like, I'm using it to get something, I'm using it to like get attention after we've already provided attention, after we've already consoled him and stuff like that, I'll say like, we're done crying, we're done whining, it's time to move on. And I think there is a place for that. And so if you disagree, let me know. The next one is because I said so. I've definitely used this one as well, because I said so. And back again to my boys. All this is from experience, so because I said so. My parents definitely have said that before when I was older and I like didn't like it. I don't think that teaches older kids anything, but when they're younger, because I said so, sometimes it is helpful because kids need to learn that you are the parent and you set the boundaries, you set the agenda, and sometimes you just do things because you do them, and there's not a time and place to explain every little detail. And so, because I said so, sometimes works in the moment. So I would just say, don't just always say that and never explain anything to your kids because they never learn. Use it spare of the moment if you need to. Because why? Because I said so. All right, the next one is don't let that bother you. People say don't let that bother you to your kids. And once again, context. Right? If a kid like gets embarrassed because they have something on their face and it bothers them, like I can explain to them that it shouldn't bother them, right? But I think the first thing you should do is to console them where they're at and to say like, I feel you, I understand that you're embarrassed. I understand that you don't like this. What other people think of us can bother us, but we shouldn't let it determine how we are in this world. Like, we shouldn't let it bother us. Even if it does. And that's something like me and my wife talk about too, like together. Like if something bothers her, something bothers me, it's like, no, we shouldn't let that bother us, but it does. So how do we deal with it? Next one is act your age. I've used this a couple times to my older kid because he has like copied doing something my younger kid has been doing. And that's the only time. And so I've used it like maybe 2 or 3 times. And I'm like, we're not going to do what your younger brother does because he is younger. He is still learning in this area. But we have discussed this. We have discussed this already. So not in the sense that you should act your age because everyone your age is doing these things, but you should act your age because the way that we have already taught and learned and grown and we have already discussed with you. So you don't need to act like a baby because you are now a grown boy. Your identity is not a grown boy, but your identity is a kid, and you know these things. And so you're not going to get away with trying to, manipulate us by your whining and your crying or whatever. And so all of these, they're just all come down to like, we shouldn't be using them to build them up. We should probably be using them more in a discussion-based context. With how much discussion you can do with your kids, it varies. Like you can have a two-second conversation with them for them to understand, or you can sit down and talk to them for a couple minutes. Like it just depends on what their emotional state is. And doing it in the moment of anger, any of these phrases, is not very helpful at all. And so the last one I wanted to hit on here is we don't do X, whatever this is, in this family. And I saw this on a post, we don't do this in this family, saying that if you're behaving in a certain way, then you get separated from this family. And I think that perspective is kind of weird. Like, we want to teach our kids how to function in society, but not in a way that's not in the way that they're like conforming to everybody, but there is some conforming in the sense of like your culture and the culture that you live in. Like you behave in certain ways. So like you're not going to just go into Sunday church and the pastor speaking, you're not just going to start screaming and yelling and like just talking as loud as you can to your friends. Like we don't do that. Why? Because we're disrupting everybody. Why do we not do that? Because it's just not how we function as a culture, as a society. And so there's things that like you don't do because we want to respect others. We want to love others. And so in our family, like one of our rules that we do is like, if you're screaming downstairs for a certain amount of time, we stop that because it's so loud down here and it's disturbing everybody and it's making everyone anxious. And we're like, if you want to go yell and scream, you can go do it upstairs in your room, but we're not going to do that down here. That's a boundary that we have set. I think we can do the same thing with, we don't do this in this family. We're not going to treat people bad in this family, right? Like this is what our family dynamic is. You are in this family. There's no way that you're out of this family. You're in this family. And this is how we behave because we are one together. And so I get that in the sense that like maybe in the future as teenagers, we don't want to say like, if you're going to do this, you're not a part of this family. Because I know that people go through that and like people get kicked out of the family for certain behaviors. But still the family unit is so important. So if you have teenagers, let me know what that's like because I need some, future guidance there. And then we're going to just go to the last one here, which is the obvious ones that we don't say to our kids because those produce death and not life. One of them is, just overall disempowering phrases, like calling them stupid, saying you can't do this, you can't do that. Not in the sense of like, don't put the fork in the outlet, but like, you can't climb the rope because you're a kid and like, you can't do it because you're not capable. You're like too dumb to do it, So anything that's disempowering, anything that is degrading them to less than human, anything that's like puts the blame on them for just being a kid. Like a lot of parents, I think, just blame their kids because they're kids. Like they don't know anything. And if you're going to blame them for not knowing something, that you should blame yourself. Like don't blame them for not knowing things. Blame yourself. You're the parent. Your job is to teach them and grow them and build them. I'm talking to myself here. Like if they don't know something, if they're doing something wrong, like it's my job to teach them, not somebody else's. Not the ether. The ether doesn't just teach the kid. The kid is just the kid and someone guides them. That's us. So I think that kind of leads us at the end here is that reframing phrases, reframing language to not instill fear, but to grow them and build them up into the things that they need to be built up in, whether that's risk, whether that's being a nice person, whether that's just following God and what he has for you. Just all the things we want to redirect from a fear-based mentality to a life-based mentality. We want to use our tongue to empower, to grow, to build up, and not to bring death. And so the phrases that we went over, I know there's controversy on things. So just think about when you're using them. Does this bring life or does this bring death? Can I use this phrase in a more strategic way? Should I not use it when I'm trying to discipline them or when emotions are high? Just think about it. Like, there can be a million different things that you say and do, and this goes with your spouse as well. There are a million things that you can say and do that can bring life or bring death. And so think about it, and as you get into the groove of either reframing or just using more encouraging language in general, it will just become second nature to you instead of always trying to, like, oh, is this bad or is this good? Like, it will just become second nature to you to encourage and to build up instead of to degrade someone. So that will be it for this video. Thank you for watching. I do dive into this a little bit more on how to use focus and language to grow and build up your kids in this video. Go check it out, and I'll see you over there. All right, see you later. See you out there. Toodaloo.